Ah, hello there. I'm Professor Edmund Halberg. For more than 4 decades, I've been wandering through the worlds of history, economics, psychology, and technology, trying to understand why humanity keeps repeating the same grand mistakes while hoping for better outcomes. From the panic of 1929 to the rise of artificial intelligence today, nothing fascinates me more than the forces that quietly steer our societies. I'm what you might call a cheerful realist. I enjoy good stories, good tea, and good data, especially the kind that reveals the hidden patterns behind world-changing events. Whether it's financial collapse, political upheaval, technological revolutions, or the inner workings of the human mind, I believe everything is connected, and everything deserves to be understood. And today, I'd like to take you into a chapter of our modern world that is unfolding faster than even seasoned observers ever predicted. Not the release of a fancy device, not a passing trend on social media, but a transformation so deep, so structural, that it reaches quietly into every home, every paycheck, every ambition, and every fear people carry about their future. If you watched the earlier discussion I shared, the one examining the warnings voiced by Dr. Jeffrey Hinton and Senator Sanders about the future of work, then you already know that the ground beneath our feet is shifting. Faster than policymakers can comprehend, faster than workers can adapt, and faster than societies can absorb. For centuries, every technological revolution displaced some jobs but created others. Farmers moved to factories. Factory workers moved to offices. Office workers moved to the digital frontier. There was always a next step, a new ladder to climb, a skill only humans could offer. But this time, the ladder ends. Artificial intelligence is not simply automating tasks. It is beginning to automate abilities, communication, reasoning, pattern detection, creativity, problem solving, customer interaction, content creation, even the subtle forms of emotional labor that once defined the human edge. When a machine can diagnose, write, analyze, persuade, interpret, design, translate, instruct, and predict, faster, cheaper, and at scale, the usual escape routes for displaced workers begin to disappear. And the question that has haunted economists for a century suddenly becomes unavoidable. If the jobs people lose are the same jobs people normally move into, what happens to society? That single question sits at the heart of what we're about to explore, because if the entire structure of work begins to unwind, then income, opportunity, social stability, and political power start to shift as well. And as Hinton and Sanders warned, when the benefits of AI concentrate in a handful of companies and the costs spread across millions of workers, the result isn't innovation. It's inequality. Not just financial inequality, but inequality of security, dignity, influence, and hope. And the uncomfortable truth is this: while companies and investors pursue AI for profit, very few have considered what happens when tens of millions of people lose the one thing that ties them to the economy: their wages. Demand collapses. Social unrest rises. Political movements radicalize. Institutions break under the weight of people who feel unseen and unprotected. We've seen early versions of this pattern throughout history, but never at this speed, never at this scale, never with a technology that accelerates exponentially, leaping, not stepping, from one capability to the next. Yet, there is an even deeper question beneath all of this, a question far more human, far more intimate, far more universal. What becomes of a society when the meaning, structure, and stability we once found in work begin to dissolve? And that is the journey we begin today. Not through predictions or policy papers, but through a story of what happens when work, the thing that shaped our routines, our identities, our communities, and our sense of worth, begins to vanish. I won't tell you where this story leads. Not yet. Because the power of this journey lies in walking through it step by step, feeling its weight, its uncertainty, its losses, and yes, the quiet possibilities hiding beneath the surface. What you're about to see is not science fiction. It's not far away. It's not hypothetical. It is the silent transformation unfolding in the background of your daily life. A transformation that will test every assumption we've inherited about work, income, society, and what it means to be human. So take a breath, settle in, and let's walk together into a future that is arriving faster than anyone expected, and a story that may hold clues to what comes next for all of us. There is a moment in history, rare, quiet, but irreversible, when the world changes not with a bang, but with a subtle clicking sound, a sound like a machine coming online, or an algorithm making a decision, or a job evaporating. This is the story of such a moment when entire communities woke up and found that the thing they relied on for generations, work, had simply disappeared. No storms, no riots, no warning. Just a silent transition from a world powered by human hands to a world run by invisible systems of code. And as we walk through this story together, remember, every scene, every shift, every collapse you're about to hear is already beginning around us. Before the end began, life looked perfectly ordinary. People woke up early, brewed their morning tea or coffee, hurried through crowded streets, and slipped into workplaces they knew like the back of their hand. Factories hummed, offices buzzed, shops lit their signs before sunrise, schools echoed with the sound of children arriving. It was a world running on routines, familiar, comforting, predictable. But if you looked closely, the first shadows had already begun to appear. A self-checkout kiosk installed at the local store, a new automated truck idling quietly at the edge of town, AI assistants answering emails a little too quickly, robots sorting packages behind closed warehouse doors. Nothing threatening, nothing dramatic, just small conveniences, helpful little tools designed to make life smoother. But as a historian, I've learned something important. Civilizations rarely notice their turning points while living through them. They notice them only in hindsight. At this moment, people still believed, my job is safe, my skill is unique, AI can replace some jobs, just not mine. They didn't know they were living in the final, delicate moments before a very different world emerged. If you think this is exaggeration, stay with me. Because what comes next is exactly what is happening across industries today, as shown by research and real-world job cuts you've already seen in the news. The change did not arrive gradually, it arrived like a silent wave. Over a few short months, workplaces across the region transformed. Factories deployed fully automated assembly lines. Robotic arms, once helpers, now completed entire tasks alone. Sensor-driven forklifts glided across polished floors with no human at the wheel. Warehouses that once employed thousands operated with only a handful of technicians. Offices were hit even faster. AI customer support systems that never slept, never paused, never asked for a break, replaced entire departments. AI scheduling systems managed teams with perfect precision. AI legal assistants drafted documents. AI diagnostic tools reviewed medical scans faster than trained experts. People walked into workplaces they had known for years, and found screens where colleagues used to sit. Not phased out, not reduced, just gone. It was not cruelty. It was efficiency. And efficiency, once unleashed, does not negotiate. Now here's the unsettling part. The numbers behind this transformation already exist today. Major studies show that nearly half of current jobs, manual and cognitive, are vulnerable to the systems already in deployment. When work disappears, the consequences ripple outward like shock waves. First came the businesses, shops with empty aisles, cafes closing early, laundries, tailors, mechanics. Everyone felt the silence. Income disappeared. Savings evaporated. Rent payments faltered. Homes were abandoned. Schools faced budget cuts as tax revenues collapsed. Public transport reduced routes. Road maintenance halted. Hospitals struggled with shortages. But the most profound collapse was not economic. It was emotional. People lost something far deeper than income. They lost identity, confidence, structure, the feeling of being necessary. Sleep vanished. Stress soared. Relationships cracked under strain. Entire neighborhoods felt the weight of shared uncertainty. This was not a recession. This was a structural breakdown, a society designed around labor, suddenly confronted with its absence. And if you think communities can simply adapt, let's explore why retraining and upskilling didn't save them. Or us. The response was admirable. Training centers opened. Online courses surged. People studied relentlessly. Coding, robotics, design, analytics. But they were running a race against something that didn't sleep. AI learned faster. AI improved faster. AI adapted faster. By the time someone completed training, the job they trained for had already been automated. Gig work provided temporary relief, deliveries, ride-sharing, freelance micro-tasks. But millions entered those platforms at once, making pay collapse. Arguments flared. Blame spread toward governments, toward corporations, toward technology itself. Yet the truth was sobering. The world had built systems assuming human labor would always be needed. But now, for the first time in modern history, that assumption had crumbled. And that collapse forced society to ask a question it had never asked seriously before. If machines do the work, how do people survive? Then came an unexpected experiment, a guaranteed income, simple, unconditional, universal. Not charity, not welfare, just a baseline. Here is enough to stand on your feet. At first, people doubted it. Suspicion ran deep. But something remarkable happened. People exhaled. For the first time in many months, they felt air in their lungs again. Groceries returned to the kitchen table. Medical checkups resumed. Families paid rent without fear. Small businesses reopened. The psychological shift was even greater. Stress decreased. Arguments lessened. People spoke kindly again. Children felt calmer. And slowly, creativity reemerged. Some started small services. Some joined community groups. Some picked up old hobbies. Some studied at a sustainable pace. This was not a miracle. It was simply breathing room, the one resource people had been denied. But with every hopeful shift comes resistance. And what happened next almost derailed the experiment entirely. As the program showed success, a new divide emerged. Some argued that guaranteed income would make people lazy. Others feared rising taxes. A few believed society would collapse without the discipline of work. Town halls became battlegrounds of ideas. One side said, machines took the jobs, so the benefits of machines should support the people. The other said, without work, people lose purpose. Both sides were sincere. Both sides were frightened. Both sides wanted dignity. The real debate was not economic. It was philosophical. What defines a human life? Is it labor, or is it something deeper? And the answer to that question shaped the future that came next. With basic stability restored, people began reshaping society. Cooperative gardens grew, community workshops opened, local markets thrived, shared learning spaces emerged. People pursued passions, not out of desperation but curiosity. Some created art, some built small digital businesses, some joined volunteer networks, others returned to education. Work reappeared not as obligation, but as expression. And something fascinating happened. Innovation increased. Local economies strengthened. People felt pride again. The new economy was not about surviving. It was about living. It wasn't perfect, but it was profoundly human. The disappearance of work was not the end of civilization. It was the end of an assumption. The assumption that human value must be measured in hours. The assumption that labor defines dignity. The assumption that progress must come at the cost of people. Today, as AI accelerates faster than policymakers can comprehend, societies face a choice. Cling to the old world, where work is the backbone of life, or imagine a new one, where dignity comes simply from being human. The truth is this: technology will not slow down. Automation will not shrink. The future is approaching whether we prepare or not. But history has shown us something beautiful. When humans are given stability, safety, and room to breathe, they do not collapse. They rise. The question is whether our systems will rise with them. So, what happened on the day work disappeared? Humanity faced itself, not through noise or chaos, but through a strange stillness, a silence that forced millions to look inward and confront truths they had tucked away for years. People faced their fears, the fear of being left behind, the fear of losing purpose, the fear that the world was shifting faster than anyone could adapt. They faced their flaws, our tendency to ignore slow-moving storms, to cling to comfortable illusions, to trust old systems long after they've grown brittle. And yet, in that same moment, people also discovered their strengths. The ability to support one another, to reimagine life when the familiar breaks apart, to find meaning in places untouched by machines, in creativity, in community, in care, in curiosity. What the disappearance of work revealed was something profoundly human. Survival is not determined by markets or algorithms, but by how we choose to treat one another when the world shifts under our feet. And now, here we are again, at a crossroads where technology is rewriting the rules faster than any generation before us. If you've watched the earlier video on this channel, the discussion about the future of work, job loss, and the warnings voiced by Sanders and Hinton, then you know this isn't a distant speculation. It is the continuation of the same story. A story that is unfolding quietly in warehouses, offices, hospitals, schools, and in the hopes and anxieties of ordinary people. The question ahead of us is no longer, will AI replace jobs? That is already happening. The true question is, how will we redesign a society where technology can do almost everything, but humanity still needs purpose, belonging, and dignity? And so, as we conclude this journey, allow me to speak to you not as an economist or a historian, but simply as an old professor who has watched many eras rise and fall. The future is not written. It is shaped by our choices, our compassion, our courage to imagine better systems than the ones we inherited. If this story stirred something in you, a question, a worry, a spark of curiosity, or even a quiet sense of hope, then I invite you to stay with this channel. Here, We explore the hidden patterns behind history, technology, psychology, and social change, the forces that quietly shape tomorrow's world long before most people notice. I'm genuinely curious to hear what you think, so leave a comment. Tell me what resonated with you, what troubled you, or what you believe the future should look like. Conversations like these matter, perhaps more now than ever. If this video gave you something to think about, do consider giving it a like. It helps more minds find their way into discussions like this. And if you'd like to walk with me into the next chapter of this unfolding story, I invite you to subscribe. There is so much more ahead, and I would be honored to explore it with you. Until then, I'm Professor Edmund Hallberg. Take care of yourself. Take care of those around you. And above all, stay curious.